Welcome to Let's Talk Kenmore, a lighthearted podcast aimed at connecting citizens to their local government and demystifying the role of government in the city of Kenmore. I am your host, Amber Clifton. In this episode, I have the privilege of speaking to one of our civil engineers, Terri, and she educates me and you about building a culvert. Please enjoy this episode of Let's Talk Kenmore. Welcome to Let's Talk Kenmore. I am here today with our civil engineer, Terri, who is going to educate me and you, hopefully, about culverts. Hi, Terri. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Amber.
So let's start with, what is a culvert?
A culvert's basically a pathway for the water. It's kind of between a pipe and a bridge. So a lot of times a culvert will just be a pipe where the water passes through under the roadway or under dirt, as opposed to the bridge basically goes over the water.
Okay. So what would be the need for a culvert?
So the fish can get to the other side of the road.
Why did the fish cross the road?
Exactly. Because they don't have Uber. So the need for a culvert is water for the streams is going to do what water for the streams is going to do. And we're giving water a path to get to where it wants to go downhill, right? So there's a stream and it needs to find its way to the river or the lake where it is basically housed or held, right? And it is the pathway so that we don't have destruction, basically. And then it's also for the aquatic life. We can't just dam it up everywhere. You know, it would go over the dam and flood the area. So it's basically a pathway where we are directing the water to go into this area instead of it destroying properties and whatnot.
So do all waterfront cities have culverts?
They'll have channels, rivers, things like that. Here in the Northwest, we get so much rain and so much watershed that there are quite a few culverts around here.
Gotcha. I had never even heard that word until I started working with you. So I'm sure I've seen them just living here.
You have.
I guess I've never paid attention to what they were or why they were there. So
it's a channel for the water. Usually it's a large pipe. It's just less expensive. And so you have to have bridges everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because there would be a lot of bridges here in Kenmore.
Yeah. So what would be the reason that a culvert needs to be replaced?
In general, the old culverts are replaced so that the fish can migrate upstream. Right now, they're a barrier to the fish migration. But this particular culvert is undersized. You know, we have different engineering standards now, and they base it on different storm events. I'm guessing it's like a 50-year storm. I don't think we did a 100-year storm on this. There was also undermining on this one where water kind of basically got under and was towing it out. And then the roadway was starting to not fail there, but, you know, if you kept letting it go, it would undermine the roadway.
Oh, like the road could buckle?
Yeah, or there was some rockery that was around it that was starting to erode. You know, Mother Nature is not to be reckoned with, right?
Right.
Water created the Grand Canyon. We're basically trying to direct it and keep it from being undermined, which was the water is digging out and scouring underneath the big pipe that was there.
Interesting. Okay, and so this all has to be done, I'm assuming you can't be under construction while aquatic life is trying to go through, correct?
Correct. There's a certain time frame when we can be into the water, which is called the fish window or in water work. And that depends on the stream and the aquatic life that is in there. This particular stream didn't have salmon in it, so we got a longer fish window or time that we could do in water work. So we had to divert the stream to build the stream bed back up and then let the stream go back through. That's done with pumps and pipes and done in the summertime when the flow rate's not as like it is right now during the spring and the rainy season.
Oh, so that's what a fish window is.
A fish window has been termed that, where it's the in-water work, and it's the time that you would not... We actually caught fish, too. There's a term in the permits that is you have to do a catch, and you have to basically see how many are coming through, and then you put them in a bucket and let them go downstream. But they make a big enough pipe to make sure, and they were just tiny little ones. little bigger than tadpoles.
You caught them in a bucket?
I didn't do it, but the contractors did it.
And then like saved them until it was safe to go back in?
Not save them. They just took them downstream while they're pumping it out to make it the area ready. Yeah, they have to make sure that they're all diverted. Yeah.
I see. Wow. So all kinds of environmental oversights.
And they were tasty, Amber. They were really good. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
We are very careful with the environment.
Yes. What does it mean when it's a fish passable box culvert? Is that what that means then? That it's large enough for them to swim on through?
So the culvert that was there, so I'll first address the box. It's shaped like a box. This is a big rectangle underneath the roadway now. Okay. So a lot of times they are round like a pipe, a large pipe. I think what was in there was 7 or 8 feet. And now we have a 15-foot wide culvert.
Okay.
And what makes it fish passable is it's, I think, 160 feet long that goes across 190th Street. And what makes it fish passable is that they put in more stream bedding. It makes it a tunnel for the fish. But they make stream bed, they put rockery in there. There's a bunch of log, woody debris that is put in its places for the fish to be able to rest and hide out. Once all the other downstream culverts for this stream bed, they're making it passable for salmon. Right now, it's kind of blocked off at State Route 522, also known as Bothell Way. There might be another culvert in the way. I don't remember. This is a water system is not my expertise. I just came in to do this one culvert, but it makes it passable so that they can go all the way down to the Sammamish River just west of the bridge.
Wow. Interesting. So there's probably a lot of environmental factors that go into this then, right?
Yes, we have to go through a bunch of permitting. For one thing, the requirements that you go through with Fish and Wildlife, the Army Corps of Engineers, there's all kinds of environmental mitigating factors that we have to basically come in, and since we're clearing out things, we have to replace plants. The permitting process took us 2 years because there's comments back and forth, and I had to have environmental specialists come in and help me because this isn't my forte. And there's people that specialize in that. So you go back through, and then even like the banks, they go through and have to replant trees because we had to remove trees, which was pretty good in this location because some of them were about ready to fall down. We're pretty much held up by the ivy.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So then you have to come back in through the banks and put in plants and trees and shrubs. And then there's the woody debris. And I mean, a good portion of the stream bed was added back in. So, I mean, it was pretty tall, but now it's not because they put in more like a stream bed or a river bed with rocks and material so that it's more of a natural state for the fish. So basically we're getting this all ready for when I think it's the DOT will come back through and do State Route 522 so that this could make it a salmon run again.
Interesting. A salmon. I didn't even know that there were salmon going into the Sammamish River. I had no idea.
Right. Actually, so back to the whole permitting and the what makes it fish passable and the fish window. So this stream did not have salmon in it now, and that's why we got a longer fish window. Ours went from July 1st to September 30th, where I was the construction manager for the West Sammamish River Bridge. And that one does have salmon, and I think we got it extended from July 15th to July 1st. On that end, and then to August 30th or 31st. And so we had to do that one in 2 or 3 windows because they shortened it on the end because of the salmon and the salmon runs. So this one didn't have, when they went in and tested it and looked at it, because they have to do that for the environmental assessment, they found that there was no salmon in it. And so we got a longer fish window.
Gotcha.
We're trying to restore it back to what it was before all of this was built, probably in the 50s or 60s. I have no idea. I wasn't even alive yet. I know I'm older, Amber, but I probably wasn't alive when that.
You're a spring chicken. That's interesting. So, I know what I was going to ask. Sorry. So let's say hypothetically that you have your fish window and then you have like some sort of stall with like the contractor getting sick or the supply chain not working? Like, how do you do you have to restore it enough to let the fish pass through and then pick up work later? Like, what do you?
It's funny you asked that, Amber. We actually did get an extension on this one. Yes, we laid the groundwork down because we had some supply chain issues with the culvert. There was a lot of back order, so it came in later than what we had liked, plus all of the work that has to be done after that. And it's not just a culvert. There's walls that go on the side of the culvert to help direct the water into it too, and to hold the banking material for the roadway. So there's actually 6 walls because some of them are in sections, but there's 2 on each side for both sides of the, on the sides of the stream, and then 1 at the top. So 3 for each side of the north and the south portion of the culvert. And, there was issues with that too, because there's things that go through the culvert and there's just a lot of coordination that goes with that. And so we had a little bit of a back order.
How do you safely close up shop enough? Do you have to ever do that?
We didn't have to. We got extensions
Okay.
to do that. And then there was some repair work that needed to be done. They were able to hold, like, they needed to go through and grout some seams. And so they just have to make sure that it didn't get any of that into the water, and they were able to do it without, basically, the fish window and the in water work is basically when you put your toe into the water and the diversion of it. So they got it extended through October. It ended up where they got out of the water. But, once you get the culvert in and the walls, there's a whole bunch of other work that still has to happen. Lots of grading, and there's the roadway work and things like that. That's why the project's taken so long, as we ran up against weather issues for paving.
I mean, isn't there always a weather issue for paving in the Pacific Northwest? It's just how it goes.
Yes. I don't know. I grew up in Eastern Washington, and it felt like there was winter and construction. So I guess it's harder to do work in the snow than it is the rain. But yes, we don't want to pave in the rain.
So when they're initially, throughout the whole process, they're obviously tearing out the road and doing all sorts of things. Like, what's preventing, like, debris from falling into that stream of water?
So it's called silt fence that they basically tow in. So it's just this fabric on your T-post, just those old fashioned, I think, green with the white tip. A lot of times those are put in, and then there's this fabric so that it holds it back. And then they also are diverting. So water's not flushing down. The silty water is not flushing down the streamway because they have put in a pipe to divert the water. Then they come in and take care of everything, take care of the stream bed, and then reroute the water through. So that was another thing that was really interesting, because they put all this material into the culvert that was stream bed material and rock. And then they had to hydrate that slowly so that it didn't flush all the material out all at once. But they made it like a stream bed, It's hard to look down there. We'll have pictures on the website when it's completed. It'll be under the surface water tab because this was their project. But there's big, rocks in there to make it. And then there's some other areas where there's water that comes in and flows, and we have rock to basically, so it doesn't dig out the dirt. It's like a splash guard almost. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you put these big rocks in, and the water, then it dissipates the energy of the water falling on it, We don't want a pool like when you have a waterfall. That's not the purpose of this. We are trying to let the stream flow. We already have a lake down the road.
That's true. What's been the biggest challenge in this project?
The permitting and all of the requirements, and just, I think sometimes the public just doesn't understand. It doesn't look like things are happening, but there are things happening, or there's reasons why you're waiting. And, they're patient for a while, but just they end up seeing that it is taking longer than they had hoped for. And they don't understand that sometimes the asphalt plants close down, and then you're waiting for weather, and there's that types of things. But the permitting, it's a whole bundle of it. It's what makes my job interesting, right? In design, it's definitely permitting and getting it through everything, because you have to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers, you have to deal with Fish and Wildlife, you have to deal with the tribes, you have to make sure that the hydrological, report and how many year storm. And there's back and forth with all of the designs. And then just when you think you're all ready, then you have to go get property owners and realize that, oh, part of the wall is in somebody's property. So you have to go back and buy that piece of property. And it kind of goes on and on with the design and the permitting. So I would say the permitting is the toughest thing. And then after that, again, filling all the requirements of the permitting is one of the tougher parts of it. Cause like things always happen in construction, but it's happening in construction and it's in water where you have aquatic life, time restrictions. So it makes it a little more difficult at that.
Right.
From that aspect. Yeah.
What's been the most interesting part of doing the culvert? Because this is your first culvert, right?
Is there's a lot of lessons learned a lot from this project. Just the time, I think the time constraint is the biggest deal, where you have this amount of time and it kind of backs you up against the wall, so you don't get as much time to analyze that and move on to something else while we're working on this. Like, it has to be done right now.
Have you been finding that you're having to stay more diligent on this project than other ones because of that? Just like constantly checking in for like status reports, or?
Yes, more communication than I had even with the bridge, where I'm touching base with my resident engineer and just even the designer, because they have more environmental experience than I do. I do like doing the culverts. It's fun. It's interesting. It's something I haven't done. Believe it or not, I've done, 4 bridges in different aspects, and yet this is my first culvert.
Interesting. Huh. Do you think your experience doing bridges helped you to understand the process of the culvert better?
Absolutely. More stringent requirements environmentally for a bridge, but this one also goes underground, right? So a little bit different. It's basically a fancy pipe that takes more requirements for the stream instead of our stormwater or our, water pipes or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want the people to know?
The people have patience with us.
Yeah.
We're trying. The engineering department doesn't always get to do the jobs that the public loves the best. They're more of the roadway should be working, right? Mm-hmm. But it's exciting to us nerds, right?
You know what? It's the sort of basic infrastructure that people take for granted, that it's just there and it just exists, and not understanding what mm-hmm. actually went into making sure that that's the case. It's not, it's not pretty or glamorous. It's sort of behind the scenes, but super, super important.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Terri, for educating us today on culverts. I appreciate the work that you're doing for the city.
Well, thank you. I hope that there's a little bit more understanding about why we're doing what we're doing and why it's so important. If it wasn't done, it'd become very important.
Yeah, and a much more daunting task than it already is, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Let's Talk Kenmore. Be sure to check back for more interesting topics and conversations. And as always, don't forget to ask yourself, where's the fun?